You know that moment where nothing looks major at first glance, and then one little detail quietly tilts the entire week? That's exactly where things are sitting in Foxborough right now. There's a medical breadcrumb that could reshape how the defense plays this game. A wild card weekend guy who saved points right on the edge of disaster. A new addition who might have a feel for the opponent's tendencies without spelling it out. And a locker room message that draws a real line between a nice season and an actual playoff run. For a few days, the vibe got strange. Not peaceful, uncertain. The Patriots went into that Chargers matchup as healthy as they've been all season, and then, on one of those all-out effort plays you watch twice because you respect it, Christian Gonzalez got shaken up. He ends up in concussion protocol, and immediately the question gets uncomfortable. What does this week look like if your best corner can't go? Depth sounds great on paper. It doesn't always feel the same on Sunday. You can love what Carlton Davis III brings. You can trust Marcus Jones in the slot. But when Gonzalez is out there, the offense across from you has to call a different game. When he isn't, you're piecing it together with substitutions and a little bit of hope. And that's not where you want to live with CJ Stroud potentially coming in with weapons like Nico Collins and Christian Kirk. Even if there's a chance Collins might not play because he also left last week with a possible concussion, you don't build a playoff plan around maybe. You build it around the toughest version of what you could see, and you survive that. Early in the week, it really felt like Gonzalez could miss at least one game. And that doesn't just change matchups, it changes confidence. It changes how aggressive you can be with pressure looks. It changes how often you can roll coverage and basically dare a quarterback to hold the ball an extra beat. Then Wednesday arrived and the temperature shifted. Mike Vrabel said Gonzalez should be practicing with his teammates. That doesn't mean he's cleared. It doesn't mean you can exhale yet. But a midweek practice is the door starting to open, especially in January. And there was one detail that mattered. He was out there, but he was wearing a red non-contact jersey. So he's back on the field, with the brakes still on. And yes, even that matters. Just being out there is a sign he's progressing. It gives the defense a direction to lean into. If he keeps moving through the protocol, it puts the Patriots in a spot to shrink space and make Houston play patient. In the playoffs, patience is usually where mistakes start showing up. But while everybody was watching that red jersey, like it was a live scoreboard update, the wildcard game gave this team another kind of insurance, something you don't always see if you're just staring at the final stat line. Because that 16-3 win over the Chargers, if you only look at the score, you miss what it actually was. That game was tight, physical, field position heavy. The kind of game where one red zone moment flips the whole night. And for stretches, the Patriots offense wasn't exactly in rhythm. Drake May had a rough start. 2 first-half field goals. Only 40% completions in the first 2 quarters. That's a long way from the 72% he'd posted over the season before things settled down later. In January, that's usually how teams get sent home, unless the defense decides it's not letting the story go that way. And this defense didn't just hold up, it took control. Justin Herbert's offense got squeezed. 6 sacks, tying a franchise playoff record. Pressure showing up on time again and again. And right in the middle of all of it, Marcus Jones, smaller than most of the guys he lines up against, played like he didn't get the memo that he was supposed to be overmatched. The turning point happened near the goal line. Herbert takes off, and for a split second it looks like you're watching the first touchdown of the game get walked in. There's one defender between him and the end zone. One, Marcus Jones, giving up 10 inches and 48 pounds. No hesitation. He closes, wraps, and drags him down short. Next play, incomplete. Turnover on downs. The game stays scoreless. Gillette breathes again. Pause on that for a second. That isn't just good hustle. That's points wiped off the board. That's momentum stolen. That's a playoff game tilted by a player offenses assume they can just outmuscle. And he still wasn't finished. Jones also got home for a sack on Herbert. A cornerback getting a sack on a Pro Bowl quarterback in a playoff game tells you exactly how aggressive this defense was and how locked in it felt. The pass rush came from everywhere. Kelvon Chason and Milton Williams with 2 sacks each, Anthony Jennings adding 1, and then Marcus Jones showing up again when it mattered most. Be honest, when the offense is searching, don't you want a defense that can win the game anyway? That's what this looked like. And if the Patriots make real noise the rest of the way, It's hard to picture Marcus Jones not being in the middle of the biggest moments. There's another layer to this week, though, that I don't think enough people are talking about. In January, talent matters, scheme matters, but there's something quieter that can matter just as much: information. That's why Darrell Taylor is so interesting. Vrabel mentioned he'd already talked with Taylor in free agency before Taylor chose Houston. So the interest was there, the familiarity was there. Then the timing gets weird. Taylor spends a season in that Texans building. He sees how they operate. He feels the rhythm. He learns the small stuff, how protections get set, how edges get played, what that defense expects from its front. He goes on injured reserve with an ankle injury back on November 5th, gets activated last week, and then Houston releases him on Monday. And now, he's in New England, with a chance to face his former team immediately, in a divisional round game with a trip to the AFC Championship on the line. Taylor didn't hide how it hit him. He said, "He's got a little chip on my shoulder, and you can take that two ways. Not reckless, not emotional in the wrong way, more like focused, like every rep matters a little more without him having to make a speech about it." From a football standpoint, he's a specific tool. He calls himself a speed rusher who can also convert power. He talks about setting the edge in the run game and being versatile as a rusher, winning outside with speed or countering back inside. That matters because playoff games come down to third down and red zone snaps. You don't need him to play every down. You need him to show up at the exact right time and make a quarterback feel it. And across 5 seasons, his production has been real. 126 tackles, 24.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles. That's impact. Add the fact that he's been inside the Texans' world, and he becomes the kind of piece that feels quiet, right up until it suddenly isn't. But even with all of that on the field, Vrabel's most important move this week might have happened before the first practice rep. He walked into that room and asked one question: who in here was still practicing at this time last year? Not many hands went up. Drake May told the story with a little laugh. Milton Williams was basically the only guy who had lived it recently, coming off a Super Bowl run with the Eagles. Everyone else? Watching from home last January, season over, no meetings, no reps, just time. And that's exactly what Vrabel wanted them to feel. Because January isn't only about being good, it's about knowing where you are. 8 teams are still working, 24 are at home. That's perspective. That's urgency without panic. For May, coming off being part of a 4-13 team last season, this doesn't sound like a cliche. It's real life. A home playoff game at Gillette Stadium where everything is tight and every possession feels heavy. You don't get to assume you'll be back. Vrabel's message landed the right way. It wasn't tighten up and don't mess this up. It was recognize what you earned and take advantage of it. Enjoy it, but don't waste it. That's the balance you see from teams that actually understand how to win in January. So when you stack all of this together, it starts to feel like identity, not luck. A cornerback trending in the right direction when it matters most. A defense that can carry the day even when the offense takes a breath. A new pass rusher who might bring both juice and insight. And a locker room getting a plain reminder that being alive right now is rare. If you're riding with Patriots Nation, do me a favor. Hit like, make sure you're subscribed, and drop your take in the comments, because I really want to know where you're at on this. Is this roster ready to take the next step and be a real threat the rest of the way? Or do you still feel like there's one thing missing before you can trust a deep playoff run?